Emergency and disaster preparedness, why it's important, particularly at a rural hospital. We'll find out at Bluff Medical Center here today on Wisconsin Doctors, and my guests will include Mary Crowley, who is the Emergency Management Director, Jean Sergai, Vice President and Chief Nursing Officer, Ben Gould, Emergency Room Director, Brian Koka, Director of Construction, Engineering, and Facility Services. We'll talk a little bit about some federal training that Bluff Medical Center received recently. It's all coming up right here on Wisconsin Doctors. Stay right here. Welcome back to Wisconsin Doctors. We are here on location at Bluff Medical Center in Mauston talking about emergency and disaster response as it pertains to a medical institution like this. And Mary Crowley, I want to start with you because you're the Emergency Management Director here. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Can you explain what your role is as Emergency Management Director here at Bluff?
The job of an emergency management director is to help the facility coordinate its ability to respond to whatever hazard is going to befall the community and that you need to respond to. We like to have emergency responses because an emergency is when something happens and you need to respond quickly.
Right.
A disaster is when your needs exceed your resources. We like to keep it to emergency if we have the chance.
Right, so it sounds to me like the more prepared everybody can be, the more a situation can be deemed an emergency versus a disaster.
We'd like to keep it in that realm. Yes,
that's
we would.
Great. Good. So Jean Sergai, I want to jump to you for a second. Welcome to the program, first of all. As a member of the administrative team here at Bluff, can you touch on why Bluff felt like a role like Mary's was important?
In a small rural hospital, it's not a common role, but we feel disaster preparedness is really important, especially in the world the way it is now. You don't know what's going to go on, even in small communities. But in Wisconsin, we have natural disasters.
Right.
So we felt administratively that it was really important to add this role to get us very organized, to be able to test it well, and be prepared for anything that happens.
So when we're talking emergencies and disasters, we're not talking about the emergencies necessarily that patients might bring to the table. We're talking anything. It could be a natural disaster.
It could be.
Yeah.
We've had even things like a bus rollover can be a huge community preparedness thing that we need to respond to quickly. Or we've had a chemical spill in one of the schools with the pool chemicals. And got many kids and many parents here, so we have to drill and be prepared for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben Gould, Emergency Room Director, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you with us. As the Director of the Emergency Room, can you speak to the benefit of having an entire organization focused on emergency preparedness versus just the ER staff being ready to respond to things like this? Because really the whole staff here at Bluff is trained in that regard.
Sure, yes. You know, the sheer volume and the complexities of many of the environmental issues that we deal with on the outside of the hospital make it impossible for any department to try to manage it on their own. It's just too large. So having the entire hospital really supports the mission of the emergency department, and we gain expertise from having other people involved in it as well, so that we can do a better job for the public.
Absolutely, and knowing that the rest of the staff has got your guys' back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brian Koka, Director of Construction, Engineering, and Facility Services, welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here with us. You and your staff don't provide direct patient care, obviously, but your team has a very active role when it comes to responding to emergency situations. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
My team pretty much provides any security needed in buildings and grounds. We also help set up the landing zones for any med flights that come and go, and help provide transportation to and from the med flights for any patients. We help move patients around the ER as needed, and we also help find supplies and bring them back whenever and wherever they're needed.
Transportation is a big part of the role for any emergency management, it sounds like.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a short break here, but when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about emergency and disaster response here at Mile Bluff Medical Center here in Mauston. Don't go away. There's more Wisconsin Doctors coming up right after the break. Stick around. Welcome back to Wisconsin Doctors. We are here at Mile Bluff Medical Center in Mauston, and we're talking about emergency and disaster preparedness and responsiveness, especially when it pertains to a rural hospital. And Jean, I'm going to start with you for this segment because we're talking specifically in this segment about emergency care. So can you give viewers an idea of what situations they might need to go to the ER versus urgent care, and what sorts of services are available in each situation? Sure.
Urgent care, I'll start with because that's the easiest.
Okay.
That really is dealing with some of the minor things, earaches, skin rashes, just your minor things that you have happen. Mm-hmm. Emergency care, we're really looking at the more life-threatening traumas, fractures, sure, cardiac issues, neuro issues. So our urgent care usually is open after a clinic. So something that you would go see a doctor in a clinic for, you can come to urgent care and use that because that's why it's there. It's after the clinic closes and that's available. Your emergency, we deal with much more trauma, high-level things.
Sure. So if you can't get an appointment, urgent care, and it's something that's fairly urgent, something that's come up that you're not expecting, urgent care is the way to go. Emergency is more of the life-threatening end of things.
Yes.
Okay. So, Ben, is there one thing that you would want the public to understand about emergency care in general?
I think it's important to, as Jean pointed out, to try to set expectations for how people might be taken care of in the emergency department. As an organization, we try to let people know what kind of time frame they're in and where they fit into the grand scheme of things with people coming in. But emergency care is handled by acuity. You know, the sickest of the sick get seen and taken care of first, as it should be, and everything else trickles down from there. So you can't snap your fingers and make everything go away. You have to work at it. So it takes some time sometimes to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you said acuity, and that the sickest of the sick often get treated first. And I'm curious to know, I've heard that there are different levels of trauma, and that these levels aren't just arbitrary. They're actually created, I mean, there's guidelines or something like that, at least in the state of Wisconsin, that dictate what levels of trauma are what. Mary, can you talk a little bit about what the trauma classifications are?
The trauma classification system is actually built by the American College of Surgeons.
Okay.
And it's adopted state by state as to how they apply that to their trauma classification system. The most recent guidelines came out in 2014, the revisions, and Wisconsin is currently in the process of adapting those qualifications to legislation. Okay. And then the Department of Health comes to your hospital and assesses your capabilities and determines what level classification you are. A level 1 is the highest.
Okay.
And they provide definitive care and they provide specialty services in addition. In Wisconsin, there are 2 level 1 hospitals, UW-Madison and Fredericton, Milwaukee. Okay. A level 3 hospital is the highest level of trauma categorization that a community hospital would have. So we need to be able to stabilize, provide emergency surgery if necessary, treat them, get them into, get the sickest people into that trauma qualification system for continued care.
So the different levels of trauma are those are actually for the certification of the hospital. Then it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So obviously, if somebody has something that would qualify as a level 1, and they're at a level 3 hospital, they need to be transported then to a level 1.
Yes.
Okay.
Part of the level 3's job is to stabilize them to make sure that they make it to the level 1. That's where we go.
Absolutely. When we come back, Brian, after the break, we're going to talk about transporting those patients to a different hospital and what the role here is at Mile Bluff. Don't go away. There's more Wisconsin Doctors coming up right after this. Stick around. Welcome back to Wisconsin Doctors. We're here at Mile Bluff Medical Center. We've been talking about emergency and disaster response, especially as it pertains to a rural hospital. And we just recently learned about the different levels of trauma certification that each hospital is certified for, and how if somebody, say, has a level 1 trauma and is at a level 3 hospital, they need to be transported to a level 1 hospital. And Brian, I want to talk to you for just a second, because you are responsible for a great portion of transportation that happens here when patients are transported. Can you talk about what Mile Bluff's role is as far as transporting patients via helicopter? And then I'm guessing there's some sort of training that's has to happen in regard to this.
Yes, safety is the main issue when it comes to dealing with med flights. My maintenance staff, my housekeeping staff are trained to take the people as need be from and to the helicopters. And you have to be very careful. Obviously, the rotors can be turning. You have to make sure that you don't get hit by that. Stay back. Keep patients and people away from those that maybe are there viewing it from the outside, looking in at it, trying to get close to it for pictures or whatever.
Yeah, that's something that you don't even think about, that the people who need to get the patients from the building to the helicopter or vice versa, they actually need to be trained on how to do that. It's not just a simple, well, let's roll them out on the stretcher. I mean, they need to have some special training there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I understand that Mile Bluff recently went through a federal level response drill called Patriot. Can you talk to us a little bit about how Mile Bluff became involved with Patriot? And what that was first. Let's talk about what that was.
Patriot's the National Guard domestic operations for field training exercise with opportunities for civilian participation. That's the cut and dried definition of it. We got involved. We were chosen by the National Guard to participate in this as one of the first hospitals in the country, as far as I was aware of. To participate in this, and it kind of deals with any kind of a disaster that would go above and beyond your normal day-to-day accident on the interstate or anything like that.
Sure. Now, Mary, I'm going to jump to you for a moment, and you are obviously make sure I get this right here. You're the emergency management director. So you obviously were the point of contact when it came to getting Mile Bluff involved in Patriot. Can you talk a little bit about what was involved in that process?
Well, Patriot is only participation by invitation, and we were invited. So you get this phone call from Langley, Virginia, and it's like, yeah, right. But it was real,
right?
And it was our opportunity, and we said, yeah, it was. It's just awesome.
How do they choose the hospitals? Is it just totally random, or is it based on, certain criteria? Do we even know? Is that classified information?
It's probably classified information, but I believe we were evaluated ahead of time.
Sure.
I got a phone call asking about our disaster preparedness capabilities. I got a different phone call from a different agency asking about our hazardous materials management capabilities, and then we had our trauma certification review, and then I got a phone call from.
Okay.
So I think that we were evaluated.
Well, congratulations. That's a good thing to qualify for, I think, because now you guys are more prepared to handle those types of things. Ben, clearly the ER would be involved in any situation that might come up as far as emergencies and as far as the Patriot training and everything. So can you talk about the experience of being involved with this Patriot training from the perspective of ER staff?
Well, if you look at what's happening around the world and the communications that we have in place, what you see is everybody in the older days were in silos, and now we're trying to handle much larger responses. The expectation from the public is that we do it in an expert manner. And in order to do that, we have to practice. From the ER point of view, we have a small group of people that are dealing with people that typically were coming into the department, and we were trying to manage them. Now we're a piece of the bigger wheel as an ER staff, and we have to fit into that wheel. We have to be functional and still be able to do our work and be able to do extra things that military or outside sources may ask us to do and be able to perform. So that's what the Patriot exercise allows us to do, is to practice.
Practicing. That's a good thing to do. We got to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about this Patriot training here at Mile Bluff Medical Center. Don't go away. There's more Wisconsin Doctors coming up after the break. And welcome back to Wisconsin Doctors. We're here at Mile Bluff Medical Center in Mauston talking about emergency and disaster response. They recently went out, all staff were involved in some federal training called Patriot, and we've been talking a little bit about that. And Gene, I want to just turn to you for a moment, because we've heard a little bit now about how the whole staff is involved in emergency responsiveness, not just the ER. How widespread is this really? I mean, is it how much training do they get? I mean, what is the training that they get? What do the people who are outside the ER staff really know?
Well, that's part of Mary's new job.
Sure, okay.
And Mary trains all of the staff in different roles, so we've added a lot of new roles. One of the things that worked really well was a patient advocate.
Okay.
So we had a staff member with every patient that came in and stayed with them wherever they went, x-ray, wherever, so that they could always go back and inform the family or keep the patient calm and know somebody was there. We had our pastoral service transporting patients back to Volk Field. So it was really, and some of our staff were actually moulaged and put in situations as volunteers to be part of the patient. So it was system-wide.
Moulaged. I've never heard that word.
Moulaged.
They look like real injuries. They use makeup and
Really?
prosthetics and make them look like they're really injured.
Wow.
And
okay.
they're great actors.
They're great actors, or at least they will be after that. So, well, that's very cool. Ben, I'm going to turn to you. You're fairly new to Mile Bluff. How did Patriot compare to emergency preparedness drills that you've seen or you've been involved with at other facilities that you've worked at?
Interestingly, I think it would have been difficult for many large institutions to be able to participate in the manner that we were able to do so. And perhaps that's why, one of the reasons why the military chose us. But historically, disaster exercises aren't practiced very well. This was so in-depth. Working with the military, they were here all the time. We got to communicate with them. We found holes in their system. They found holes in their systems.
Wow.
We found holes in our systems. And so it gave us the ability to really work hand in hand with them. And I think it was very, very valuable for us in that respect. So
That's great. And forgive me if this was mentioned earlier, but how long was this training?
So 2 days.
2 days.
Really?
Okay.
2 days. Yeah.
12-hour sessions.
Yeah, two 12-hour, and you know, we had members of the military from the Air Force, of course, but we also had members from the National Guard. And so what we observed was that not only was there some difficulty communicating with us, but there was some difficulty communicating with their various branches.
Sure.
And so they worked through that too, and it was fun to watch them problem solve and get after it. So things that they probably do in war zones, but don't do domestically so well.
Right, and it's good to know that they're able to, you know, admit if they don't have all the answers right there, and then to see them work through it.
Yes, very true.
Now, Brian, you were in direct communication with some of the exercise coordinators for the National Guard. What was their response to working with the folks here at Mile Bluff?
Extremely positive. They learned a lot from us, as been alluded to. We learned a lot from them.
Yeah.
Like Ben said, the coordination between the military and the civilian side isn't something that they deal with all the time, and nor is it something that we would normally deal with. So it was a very good learning exercise for everyone involved.
And Gene, positive outcomes that you've seen from this training?
Positive outcomes. How else can you get ready for things? We processed 90 patients in 2 days through our small ER. Everybody learned from it, and they learned different roles, and we will just get better at everything we do for the community.
Always trying to improve. When it comes to emergency responsiveness, that's something you always want to try to improve on. And Mary, real quick before we go, we just have a few seconds left. Is there anything else that you want to talk about as far as the Patriot emergency training and what you guys got out of it, or anything else that you want to mention?
Well, first of all, we're very thankful for the opportunity to participate in Patriot. It is by invitation. It is an opportunity. Lessons learned at Patriot are applied all over the nation. It's a domestic operations exercise. So we feel good about that. In terms of emergency preparedness, altogether, we are part of the community. The community is part of our mission to be able to take care of what we need to take care of when it comes in our door, and we're happy to be able to do that.
We are out of time already. Thank you so much, everybody, for the information and for sharing this. This is great information, and we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for Wisconsin Doctors. Thanks for joining us today. From all of us here at Channel 57, we invite you to live longer, live better. We'll see you next time.